Richard, in terms of pricing and quoting for e-learning initiatives, how does a company compare apples with apples?
When the industry started a few years ago, it was a typical software technology-driven space. So you would have your software license, and then you would have cost for content, and then you have cost for implementation. And those elements still remain today, but you can be much more flexible as a customer as to how you tailor those packages to suit your business. So from an e-learning point of view, when you license the platform and you license the technology, you need to look at the delivery model and student behaviour. So how are your students going to interact? Is it going to be by course and then you never see them again? Do you want to maintain a relationship with them? If it's employees, obviously these questions are easy to answer. But for a company in the retail space, for example, where you might be driving e-learning out to enhance customer loyalty, you might want to touch customers once a year. You don't want to be paying for a user profile in a system that's quite expensive to retain all that data. You might want to transfer that back to your CRM. So your platform, from a customer relationship point of view, needs to be integrated within your existing technology. But your software license, you can tailor that to suit. You might like to decide to tailor that on a per head, per program basis. You might like to buy the license outright. You might like to license it by project. Vendors can be very, very flexible in how they tailor their models. So if you spend time working with the software vendor and they can understand your business, they can generally come back to you and say, well, this is a good commercial fit for your business and we can stage it this way. A lot of companies will move into a procurement cycle where they'll say, well, this is what we want. We'll tender this information out into an RFP. The problem, which is a request for proposal and is a standard sort of procurement process, the problem with that is that quite often then the vendor will not necessarily understand what the business model is going to be. So you want a vendor that you can sit down and work with, somebody who's going to understand your business, and then somebody who's prepared to be flexible and say, let's adjust our pricing and we'll go this way. That's the biggest single lesson Saba learnt in moving from the US. Australia does business very much differently to the US, and Europe too, I might add.
Richard, you mentioned technology and platform. What are some common mistakes managers make when planning for e-learning initiatives?
Being short-sighted is probably the blunt way that I'd put it. People may fall into the trap of saying we just want to start small and we just want to deliver this one initiative. We don't need all the bells and whistles. Now that's actually great and it's a legitimate strategy. When people then look at the technology they want to buy, they need something that will just nail that to start with. But then if they don't think about what they want to do going beyond that initiative, if they don't think about will the technology scale, can I use it for multiple audiences, will this thing work across multiple geographies, can I do more than one thing with this product, can I change business process? If we don't have a product in place that can do that, the company ends up investing up front in something that's small and cheap, may do the job initially for the first 6 months, but then it won't necessarily work a year later for what they want to do then. So they need to be able to scale the technology.
Coming up next week, we continue our two-part series on e-learning and its impact on Australian enterprises. Our guests include Richard Boggon, Vice President, Asia Pacific, Saba.
All around the world.
Kevin Macking, Managing Director of WebEx Australia. Thérèse Maanen, Director of Business Development, Southrock. David Hobbs, Director of Sales and Services, Pathlore. Phil Kearns, Managing Director of A.S.K Solutions. We also look at a company, TodayCorp, and how it's leading its way in e-learning solutions for the retail industry. Joe Ward, TodayCorp's Chief Executive, discusses certain points that retailers need to consider prior to deploying an e-learning platform. We look forward to you joining us next week, same time, same place.